Hello, and welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina. Thank you for joining us today. And we're going to have a conversation with a friend of mine named Liz Beth, who was with me in Tobyhanna when my husband passed. We spent a lot of time together. And Liz has gone through some personal losses that she'll share, which she was able to leverage to have empathy for me and what I was going through. Let's get into the conversation. And also know I am sorry for the person you have lost, the grief that you are carrying that has driven you to be in this conversation. I hope you feel like you are part of my hood and knowing you're part of the community and you are not alone. Let's see what this is about.
Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello and welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina. My guest today under the series, My Friends Are Where There, is my girlfriend, Elizabeth. Hey, Liz.
Hey, how are you?
I am good. It has been a minute since we've seen each other, so I am glad to get to see the play some catch-up time.
Yes. It's been a year. It'll be a year.
Yeah, it will be. So, Liz, who is Elizabeth? Tell us about yourself.
Who is Elizabeth? Well, Elizabeth is somebody that is constantly growing and evolving. I mean, I'm learning more and more about myself the further and further I get away from the military, because I joined the military at 17. That's all I knew all my life. And then when I retired, I had to learn who Liz is. And that was a process because I didn't even know what my favorite color was. I didn't know how to dress for my body type because I always wore a uniform.
Okay.
I had to learn who she is. So I am still learning who she is. It's still coming. And to be 63 and still learning.
I'm sorry, you how old, child?
63 and still learning.
Oh, look at flawless over there, 63. How long were you in the military? In what branch? And what did you do?
I was in the military for 28 years. I was in the Army. And I was a communication and electronic repairer. So I repaired radios, teletype switchboards, and things like that.
So what was your evolution of your career in the military, rank you had and places you traveled?
I made the highest enlisted rank that you can make, which is an E9 Sergeant Major.
Wow.
I'm the first female in my job, in my MOS, military occupation specialty, to make E9.
Wow, that's an accomplishment.
The first one, and I'm actually in a book that says the 100 Sergeant Majors of Color. And there's a little asterisk next to my name because I'm the first female in my MOS.
Wow.
And thank you. And I've been all over the world. I've been to Kuwait, Germany 3 times, Korea twice, Fort Campbell, Kentucky twice, Fort Dix, New Jersey, Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, and my last duty station, Tobyhanna Army Depot in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Family, friends, other things going on outside the work list?
I'm an empty nester now. And starting my life over as a single person.
Wow. How old are your children? What are they doing?
The oldest is married, and he's doing well. He's back in school now, and the youngest one is in school, going to Lock Haven University. So both of the boys are back in school. So
when you're not working and you're not raising children, what do you enjoy doing just for you?
I take myself to the movies. I take myself on dates. I take myself out to dinner. Nice. I've been traveling a lot. I just got back from San Diego. I've been out to Detroit just recently. So yeah, I've just been doing things I love to do.
What's the last movie you saw?
I just seen Missing last week. The one with Nina Long in
Okay.
on that one. Yeah, yeah, it was really good. I took myself out to the movies last week. Sure did.
Nice. Very good. So how did we meet?
Wow. I was thinking about that this morning.
Okay.
We met, I believe it was around 2008. You were coming in this little back stairwell, and I was going down the little back stairwell to go to the bathroom. And we kind of bumped into each other, and I was like, "You're new here." And you said, "Yeah, I am." And I think we introduced, gave our names,
Uh-huh.
and that was it at that time. I will say our friendship was a very slow processing friendship because we would hi and bye and stuff, but never really communicated to. I would say 2 or 3 years later.
Okay.
I think it was when we took that LMP course. Is
Oh,
when
now where was here?
Say again.
Where
I
was
mean,
here?
Tobyhanna, where we worked at the
Okay, but
depot.
everybody else don't know that. I know that.
I know. I just assumed. Yeah, we worked on at the military base together. Yes.
Okay. And we took an LMP class together. I think we
Yeah.
were deployed to Iraq or Kuwait around the same time too.
Yes.
I think
Yes,
you
we
were in
both were.
Kuwait, and when I was coming back from Iraq, I think I had like a week transition there. I think that was when we really started to connect a little bit more past the sort of highs and buys.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
but it was like I said, it was a slow process because that was what 2010, 11.
Wow.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
met you. I want to say 2008. So that's about
Okay.
a 3-year span that it
Mhm.
really took off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you remember about our friendship and me being in Pennsylvania?
What I remember about our friendship. I want to say the most I remember is how people were confusing us, calling you Liz and me Tina. And we were both like, you don't even look alike. I mean, you're like 4 inches taller than I am. Obviously darker complexion. We both
Yes.
had locks, but your locks are different from mine. But
Mhm.
yeah, and this one guy swore up and down you were the Devil Sergeant Major. And
Yes. And
like,
so I'm gonna tell you guys, for people that are not used to the melon, that's in our skin, this is a real thing where people will not take stock in who a person is for an individual and literally call you by somebody else's name. You can literally see Elizabeth and I do not look alike.
no, we
She's-
don't.
I mean, if we were standing next to each other, I am taller than her. My melon is extra than hers. If people would literally just say, "Hey, Liz," and I would call her and go, "Hey, girl. Hey, Liz. Hey, Tina. I just want to know where you at because supposedly you right here next to me." And I went in and out of that break room trying to warm up my food. And this guy said, "Hey, Liz." I was like, "My name is not Liz." He said, "Yes, it is." I was like, "Is he telling me what my name is and going to be adamant about it?" And it got so loud. It was
Yeah,
disruptive. Like he became like almost combative. I was like, I think I'm just gonna say I'm Liz so I can walk away.
yeah, yeah,
I didn't say I was
yeah.
Liz, but I almost called you, said, "Girl, can you come over?" Because obviously he needed to know what the second color girl on the depot looked like. Because it's not me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
he told me I was lying when I said I wasn't Tina.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I just walked away from him. I was like, I say when you argue with a foolish person, it makes you look like a fool. So I just walked
Hmm.
away. I was like, no, not gonna do it. But yeah,
That was
we
hilarious. That was
had
the
a lot.
funniest moment of that. That
Yeah,
was. So, Liz, I
yeah.
want to ask you, I know we're here to talk about a lot about what happened in my life. But what are some great losses in your life that you've experienced?
Hmm. 7 miscarriages.
Mm, 7.
7 before I had my son. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
even think I knew that. Would you mind unpacking some of that and what that looked
Y-
like and that road?
Yeah, I had gotten to a point that I had totally given up. I
Okay.
just, I didn't want to go through it no more. It would always it tears your body down every
Right.
time you get pregnant and then you lose the pregnancy and everything. And I was just tired.
Mm,
I was in my 40s,
okay.
and everything. And I just was like, let's just stop trying. But my husband at the time wanted at least a child to carry his name on, and I just didn't have no more energy. So anyway, we were stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I went back to the OBGYN there for a different appointment. I had seen her earlier and she was looked all through my records and said, what is it that you want me to do for you? It looked like everybody done everything they can do for you. And I was all right with her, her answer because I was tired. So when I went back for my follow-up OBGYN appointment for something totally different, she had a whole change of attitude. And she was like, you know what? I want to send you to Wright-Patterson in Ohio to the fertility specialist and let them look at everything and give it one more time. And my mouth fell open because I was like, why the change of heart? Because she was very mean, kind of rash and everything. So when I came out, the secretary said, you know why she had a change of heart? And I said, no, I don't. She said, because she's pregnant now. And so I guess it worked for her. And so she wanted me to go.
Oh, so she had gone through the same process.
I guess so. I guess so. But the secretary told me the change of heart became because she was pregnant now. So we went to Wright-Patterson and we seen the specialist and she looked through my stuff. She was a major and everything. And she said to me, has anybody ever put you on a baby aspirin before? And I said, a baby aspirin? And she's like, yeah. And she told me what it was supposed to do. But Tina, I just, all I heard was want, because I said in my mind, this ain't going to work.
Right.
So she said that. And when she got done, I came outside of her office and my husband said, what did she say? And I said, she wants me to try a baby aspirin a day. And I said, I'm not doing that. He said, why not? He said, you've tried everything else. Why not? I said, this is not going to work. So I did. I tried the baby aspirin a day. I got pregnant. I didn't get excited because I've been pregnant, so many times before. I wasn't excited. And and I had never made it past the first trimester. So I made it past the first trimester, still didn't get happy. But when I got to the second trimester and I was still pregnant, I started screaming. And then I was like, well, what does this thing do? And everything. Well, come to find out that my dad never told me that we have a family history of very thick blood. And that our blood was so thick that it was clotting up the nourishments for the baby and cutting off the baby's food.
Wow.
So with me having a thinner blood, it allowed Daniel to be nourished. And everything. So we had Daniel and everything. And I just couldn't believe it. So Daniel turned 9 months in a day and he took off. He was crawling. He took off and started running. And that's when I got pregnant with the second one. 9 months in a day, I got pregnant with Michael. And they are exactly 20 months and 1 day apart.
Wow. So did you stay on the baby aspirin while you were pregnant, or how did that work?
After 6 months, you had to get off of it because it would have made the baby's blood too thin. And that's exactly what happened with Daniel. When he was born, his blood was so thin, he couldn't be circumcised. Because if he had been circumcised, he would have bled to death. So we had to wait till his blood thickened up for us to be able to circumcise him. Now with Michael, I only took a half a baby aspirin while I was carrying Michael. So when he came out, he didn't need to wait. He could be circumcised. And then I was trying for the girl, but I never got pregnant no more. So, hey.
So how did it feel to finally have children after all those losses? I mean, I've had two miscarriage. No, I've had one miscarriage before Catherine. In that, I read this book called A Deeper Shade of Grace. And that was comforting. And the lady had several miscarriages. How was that for you to actually be there and hold those babies in your arms?
Well, I call my two sons my miracle men. Every time I post something on Facebook or whatever, I say this is a miracle because, like I said, I had gave up. But God just had me in a holding pattern. I was supposed to wait. And so I am so glad I had my children later in life because I was more settled. I mean, it was towards the end of my military career. We didn't travel anymore. I mean, everything was established. So it was just perfect for these two little guys to come at the time because everything was in place. Everything was in place. And when you see young couples having kids young, they struggle
Oh,
because
yeah.
they're trying to get their career together. They're trying to go back to school. They're trying to do all these things and juggle kids. Well,
Right.
my career was done,
Okay.
and I did go back to school after the boys were born, but, that's I already had associates. So that was to get my
Right.
bachelor's and master's. But, it still wasn't the struggle that I
Right.
think we would have had younger because financially we were okay.
Right. That's wow. Now, going through a loss like that and seeing things turn around, how has that impacted how you see life in different struggles that come your way?
I just think life is too short for people just to be sitting around and doing nothing. And that's one reason why I'm doing so much, like traveling and taking myself out, doing all these things because life's too short. I just
Right.
don't want to be just sitting here waiting to die or whatever. So I'm trying to
Okay.
enjoy life to my fullest. So yeah, it's impacting me. I see things so differently now because
Okay.
life
When
is
you say
short.
so differently, what does that look like? Just
Um,
outside of the travel and just how you see life itself.
like I said, I'm still growing. So I just think that I've been even putting myself in, self awareness seminars since the
Okay.
last time you've seen me, women empowerment, and trying to understand how to negotiate relationships in the
Oh,
future.
okay.
How the questions I should have known to ask years ago when you start dating a person, I didn't know these questions to ask. And
Okay.
I just think it's a shame that you're 63 and you're hearing some of this stuff for the first time and
Okay.
everything. But yeah, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited,
Right.
but it's kind of scary too
Okay.
because, you know, I'm older now. It's not like it's a whole, when you're a young person, it's different.
Girl,
But
can't nobody tell you 63. They're gonna have to ask for that a couple of times, see the ID card, because I'm still like,
yeah,
wow.
2 more years, I can draw Social Security. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you can draw it now, technically. You're just trying to get to those big
Yeah.
numbers, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, wow, thank you for sharing that. I have seen you post and call the boys miracles. I did not know the reason why. Now, that's a lot. People that you have lost on top of that, what does that look like for you?
Oh, wow. So I lost my mother in 2008. One morning I got up and, getting ready to go to work. Everything in the phone rings is my brother telling me that my mom passed.
Mm,
And I said to him, whose mom? Because I know you weren't talking to my mom. Because
right.
I just talked to her Sunday and this is Tuesday.
Mm,
So there's no way my mom passed he's like, our mom passed. And I just screamed because
mm.
that was like my best friend. I lived my military life. My mother she wanted to be in the Navy, and
Okay.
her mother would never let her join. So
Wow.
she lived the military through me. And,
Okay.
and she would come and travel. When I was in Germany, she
Okay.
came. Every duty station in the United States, she would come to. So,
Wow.
and she was she was the wind beneath my wings. She's the one that signed me in at 17 because I needed a parent
Right.
signature and my dad refused to do it. So my
Okay.
mom did it. Like I said, she prayed for me. She constantly encouraged me because at
Mm,
the 10-year mark, that halfway point, I
right.
wanted to get out. And my mother said, no, you're not getting out. And I
Okay.
was like, when I'm bored, I'm tired of repairing radios and all these
Right.
things. And she said, isn't there something else you can do? And I was like, well, I was thinking about being a drill sergeant. She said, put in for that. So I
Okay.
put in for it and got it, went to Fort Dix and
Okay.
became a drill sergeant. She was always pushing me. She didn't want me to stop.
Okay.
I owe these 28 years really to my mom because just praying for me and, being there for me and everything. So my last two ranks, when I made E8,
Mm-hmm.
my mom came to Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. She came to
Okay.
Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. I didn't tell her I was getting promoted and anything. So she came, I had her come out from Michigan.
Okay.
And so we went on base, to the job and stuff. And I put my rank in her hands. I said, when I tell you to do something, I want you to do something with this. So we're all standing, you know how we do promotion
Right.
ceremony. Everybody and their mother is in there. and everything.
Exactly.
And I have my little mom, because she's short,
Okay.
standing next to me. And so the attention to orders, took my rank off my hat. And then I told my mom, I said, now I want to take you to take and pin this on my hat. So my mom pinned my rank on my hat and
Okay.
everything, and put it, put everything on, and her mouth just fell open. And I said, you just promoted me.
Right.
And she had never seen that before.
Okay, I
And
was going to ask. So she had traveled to visit you, but she had never been part of a promotion ceremony.
no.
Okay.
So I had her come at my E8 ceremony.
Okay.
When I made E9, I was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay.
And Michigan, Kentucky was only 8 hours, so we brought her down again.
Okay.
Didn't tell her nothing again.
But she got a little scoop now. She know what happened before.
Nope. She still was
Okay.
surprised. Still was
Wow.
surprised. Still was
Okay.
surprised. And everything. But this time when I put in her hand, she knew what was going on.
Right. At that point, she knew what was going on.
She knew what was going on. And I told my mom, I said, this is the max I can go, Mom. I've reached the top. And she just started crying because she's like, you made the very top. And she hit me again. This time I made her do it on the shoulders.
Okay.
And everything. But yeah, I let her live my military career with me.
Wow.
Because so anyway, she died first. And God always has a plan. He knows who needs to go first. So she died first, and then that was 2008. Then 3 years later, my dad died while I was in Kuwait. I had to come home on emergency leave. 6 months later, my brother died next to me. And then next year, my sister died. All in 18 months, I lost the three of them. And I know my mother couldn't have been able to handle all that at the same time. So he moved her out the way.
Okay.
So that the rest of them, when they passed, that she wouldn't have to go through all that. I'm the one that had to go through all that. I mean, it was rough. Oh, it was so rough.
Yes. How was it being there for your dad? And how long were your parents together?
Well, I got to do the math. I am
63.
35 years.
Wow. How was that? How was your dad in your mom's absence?
How was it what?
How was your dad in your mom's absence?
So what we had to do for my dad is my sister moved back from Killeen, Texas to Michigan to take care of my dad for me. I moved her. My other brother, he went and got a van and he moved her, packed her up and brought her back. They sold the house that my parents had. My sister used the money to purchase a house that would have handicap access because my dad was paralyzed on one side from having strokes.
Okay.
And everything. So my sister moved back to take care of my dad. And I signed everything over to her between the two of them, so that everything would be okay. So that's how we took care of my dad until he couldn't be cared for anymore, because after a while, my sister couldn't help him to the bathroom. He had to be hoisted. So then we had to make a decision to put him in a nursing home. So we went and we got him a nursing home and everything. He loved it in there because my dad is a social butterfly. Oh my God. When I would go visit him, he'd have all the women cracking up and they're just sitting all around the table. I was like, this dude, he had it going on, even in the 70s, and everything. But he was a funny guy, At the end, our relationship was a whole lot better than growing up. I didn't even know he had such a sense of humor. And everything. And he really talked about a lot of deep stuff. I learned a lot from my dad before he died and everything. And I'm just glad that we were able to, get our relationship together and everything. So when he passed, I was kind of okay with it because he had suffered so long with the strokes. He was having many strokes and many strokes. Yeah. So that one I didn't take as hard as I took with my brother, though. The brother we're only 18 months apart. And he died a few months after Daddy died.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And I believe it was foul play because they found him dead in his house, naked. They had taken all of his clothes. They had taken all of his food, everything. And they had been in there partying prior to that. And then I guess when he died, they just cleaned up everything. And when you looked at his phone, there was no more phone calls from the time he died until we found him a whole day later.
That would seem odd.
Yeah.
If no one knew, there would be phone calls, just things that would happen.
No phone calls, no nothing.
How have you managed grief? That's a lot. How have you managed that?
It was hard. I mean, I really didn't have nobody to talk to. I'm the oldest out of 5.
Okay.
Financially, I carried the family. So, every time somebody died, I had to pay for whatever arrangements I made. Nobody had insurance. Thank God my dad was in the military, so he had the VA benefits. So that really helped me out a lot. My brother had nothing.
Okay.
Nothing literally, but I had his daughter had a good friend that worked at the funeral home, and so they gave us a big discount. And by the time my sister died the next year, I had to go get an ACS loan, Army Community Service loan, because it was just too much happening back to back.
And what about the mental part in the gap of their absence of their existence? How have you managed that?
The best, when my brother died, I just wailed. I broke down literally.
Okay.
My family had never seen me break down. I was always the strong one, and the military cool person.
Yes.
But when Tim died, I did not deal with that well at all. Because we were close as kids. And
so when you say not well, you're saying that how transparent and vulnerable you were there, or was there safety concerns? When you say not well, what does that look like really?
Not well was like, it wasn't fair that somebody would take his life and just leave him there like that, and nobody tried to help him. And my brother had a good heart. He would get his paycheck and, I hate to say it, just buy all the beer and all that stuff. He was the party person. That's the way he was, and he didn't deserve to be treated like that. And I just thought it was cruel that nobody cared to call 911 to get this guy any help or anything. And that's what I didn't take well, is that how could you just leave him like that?
Right. The cruelty.
Just leave him like that. Yeah, the cruelty of it.
That is a lot. Those are 3 significant people in a very short window of time.
Yeah.
So that was 2009. Just as you're getting your footing back, then my life starts to shift. It shifts with the breast cancer, and then it shifts then to Mark. How, being my friend, how was that impacting you?
I understood your pain to some level. You know what I'm saying? Because it's different when you're made. I can't even imagine what that felt like. But I understand when you have a relative, a person that you really care about, ripped off your life unexpectedly. Like I said, nobody was expecting Tim to die because he was only 50.
Right.
Yeah. So, that was hard, but I could sympathize. I could understand, how your heart had to be breaking, because all this unexpectancy is, this is not what we weren't prepared for, none of it,
How did you find out about what happened with Mark?
I came to work, actually.
Okay.
And I opened up an email, and it's, how they send the bereavement emails out saying the passing of Mark Fornwald, blah, blah, blah. And I started screaming at my desk. I was like, no, that's not what I'm reading. I was reading the thing over, and I was like, no, I called you, and you just text me back and said, I can't talk right now. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I learned about it when I got to work that morning.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, you're like trying to talk to somebody, or was any other friends there? Because we used to have lunch together and do stuff that you talked to, or how did that?
No, because Jennifer wasn't there. Jennifer, she wasn't there.
Okay.
Nobody was there to explain to me what happened.
Right.
And I couldn't talk to you. So I was like, what in the world happened? I had no clue. And then finally, when you finally started telling me what was going on, that's how I found out. Or maybe even later on that day, maybe Jennifer, or the next day is when, but yeah, I had to wait.
And it was hard. It was hard to like who you could have the bandwidth to not that somebody was have different value. It was just, I mean, one Jennifer was literally picking me up. The other one was in the dark with you as far as trying to figure that out and just what needed to happen. So do you recall the first time you saw me and what that looked like? Or was that at Mark's service?
I don't remember the first
Okay.
time, but I do remember the first time I guess I did see you was you were running out of leave days and you
Okay.
needed leave days, because you wanted to be out longer. So maybe it was a conversation we had
Okay.
because, yeah, I think it was a conversation we had because I started canvassing people. And
Really?
I started with my husband because he had so many sick days. It wasn't funny. And I went
Okay.
to him, I said, Patrick, Tina needs vacation days and you got a whole bunch of them. And I said, can't you give up? And he did. He gave you a whole bunch of vacation
I
days.
didn't.
I just went starting. I went and found, I'm serious. I mean, I put
Oh
that,
no, I'm over here like I did not bring tissues. I was not ready.
I put that Defo Star Major hat on and I was like, no, we got to get some leave days so that she can come back when she's ready to come back.
Oh my
And I
God.
talked to several people and they donated and donated to the point that you told me, stop. I don't need any more days.
The widow fog I don't even have any recollection of that.
Yes.
But thank
You
you,
had burned
because
up all your days.
that
Yeah.
gave me 3 months to get my
Yes.
head kind of on straight to come back to work. You were beating people down for that.
I didn't beat,
Really?
no, I didn't beat. I asked, because
No, I'm saying you were beating the pavement, not like beating people down.
Oh, yeah. But you never know what you get until you ask somebody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I used my voice. I said, I have to speak in her behalf because she's not here.
Right.
And I started right in my own house and I just kept going. And I was getting the donation.
Okay. Let me get my tissue. I was not ready. Oh my gosh, Liz. Thank you.
You're welcome,
Because
sweetheart.
when you work for the federal government, for people that don't know, there is a voluntary leave program. And what makes this even more complicated, I had breast cancer and I had treatment, and this was before COVID, so teleworking wasn't really a big thing. And when I asked to telework, it was approved, but there was so much scrutiny because it just wasn't the world we lived in. So I was in cancer treatment. I was tired. There was a lot going on. So at that point, I bottomed out of my leave. So when Mark passed, I think I had like 4 hours of leave left because I was just trying to recruit from the treatment and everything. And it's not always, even though you may have a reason, it's not looked well upon when you don't have a good leave balance because it looks like you're abusing the system. So for me, I just was on the voluntary leave program and just probably coming off. So to turn around and to be back on that program, people can think you're kind of shady or look at it totally different. That was not my circumstance, but I just want to be able to explain the gravity of that. And there was a gentleman that worked down in Huntsville. I met him one time.
Yeah, they came to visit.
And he was there in my job. I was required to just host a lot of people. He donated, I want to say 100 hours. He heard what happened. Somebody else told him. He was like, that lady I spoke to, I am just beyond, because I needed that time to be able to just give myself, because I was in such a public place when I was at work. It was a lot to be able to be in people to do that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. Oh. So now that time happens and I come back to work. What does that look like compared to the person you knew before I was at work?
So what happened when you came back to work, I went into protective mode because we have people at our job who just don't know how to talk to people when they have a loss. They were saying stupid stuff and they were triggering you. And you would come over to my desk and say, Liz, let's go for a walk. And everything.
Like now.
Yeah, now. And I want to explain to everybody now, when we worked for the military, you have designated breaks that you can get up and go for a walk and take a break. But the whole time that you were going through this, nobody said anything to us about you guys are walking and it's not break time. We never got reprimanded. Nobody ever got in our face because I believe everybody understood that I was there to support and to be there for you, because folks were coming up saying some of the stupidest stuff and it was irking me. And I just saying God just worked it out that we could always get up and go take a break. Go, let's walk this thing out. Let's go cry this thing out. Let's go talk this thing out and everything. So I was your sounding board and I didn't even mind it because I just wanted to be there for you. I wanted you to be okay. I wanted you to be okay.
What made you not want to run away from that? Because those conversations were from here to the moon and back. These were, as you say, crying it out. What made you not want to go, okay, this has gone on long enough, or she should be okay? Why did you not have that thought process?
There's no time limit on how long it takes a person to grieve.
Okay.
You had just recently became an empty nester yourself. I mean, both of the kids were gone.
Yes.
You were in this house all by yourself. You're trying to come to work so that you can get some normalcy back in your life. But then we deal with crazy people at our job.
Like everybody else at work, just saying. We all got them. So most of them are people, but it just takes the one or two to make things spicy.
Yeah. And like I said, I just wanted to be there for you. I wanted to let you know that I believe everybody had a role to play in the process of you getting through this. Okay. I was the work person. I was that buddy. You had a buddy for when you got home. You had a buddy for church. You had a buddy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody had a role and we all came together. So I knew what my role was. I was to be there for you at work. Then when you left and you went, I handed you off literally to whoever the next buddy was. And then the next day we just started the process over again. I never got tired of it. I still don't get tired of it. As you know, we still talk about stuff, but I never get tired of it, Tina. When you got a good friend, you never get tired.
That is important because so if I didn't open up and I didn't share, what role do you think you would have taken at that point in time if it was just locked down and closed off and knowing from your own experience with grief? How do you think you may have approached that differently?
I guess I learned that it's all right to be vulnerable. It's all right to be, I'll be honest, my whole life I've been pretty guarded. I didn't really want anybody too much in my space. I didn't trust a lot of people. It stemmed from my childhood because my parents really never allowed me to have friends that could come over and hang out. So I've been a loner pretty much all my life. Even though I was in the military and everything. And this is, again, like I said, this is my part of my evolving after leaving the military, learning who Liz is and learning how to listen. Not be the one that's always barking the orders, and it's all right to share. It's all right to share. And believe me, what you were going through, I learned a lot too. I would tell you all the time, man, I'm learning so much just from our conversations, and everything. And I think the most thing that I got out of all of this is that you would tell me what love looked like, because I really don't believe I've ever had a man love me for me. But in listening to your relationship with Mark, and I said, Lord, I've never had none of this, and everything. And that's my heart's desire, is to be loved and cherished, but, and you had that. And I thought it was just great because I know it's possible. I know it
Right.
is possible if you get the right person.
That is
Um,
true. And I
yeah,
think also, thank you for sharing that. As you learn yourself, I think that helps you identify how you need to be loved. And
exactly.
these organic relationships that we have, just platonic friendships, tells us how we want to be loved in a different way. Do you remember any specific of some of the conversations or things we talked about? Anything stands out to you or kind of conceptual wise?
Yes, the biggest thing that stood out to me, and I don't know why it stood out to me, is that you know you would you would walk into a room and you could smell Mark. You could
Mm,
smell Mark on something, a towel or whatever, and it would just trigger you, and you just have meltdowns,
yes,
or you were, trying to pack things up, and you seen, because he was a hunter, so his hunting stuff, his tools, and you kept saying, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I can't do this, and everything because it felt like you were giving him away. You were
yes,
getting, and you would just call and we would just talk,
yes,
about, you know, uh, Liz, I'm having a meltdown. You would call me and I was like, okay, and we just talk it out, and all that stuff. And I was like, man, I just wish I could, really be in a relationship where you really miss somebody. You don't even know how you're gonna live this life, this new life without the person. The big
right,
gaping hole in a person's heart.
yes.
You know, yeah, Tina, I learned a lot. And you think it was just all about you? No. I really believe God ordained us to be together
Okay.
because you were helping me in the
Mm.
process.
So
Helping me in
if
the
somebody had a friend, the person Liz does, if I'm right, still does locks. You do sister locks for people, and a client comes in, you're doing their hair, and they tell you a good friend of their spouse died, and they're afraid to talk to them, and you're locking their hair. What do you think would come to your mind to tell them?
that you just need to be there and just listen and ask them, how can I support you? How can I help you? What do you need? Because,
Okay.
like I said, when you said you needed leave days, you didn't have, that's all you had to tell me. I already knew what I needed to do. Is you just need to find out how can I be of service to you as you're
Okay.
going through this process. I think that's the biggest key to all this thing is just being available for whatever the person needs and try to help them to the best of your ability. You know, um, and that's all I did. I mean, I just whatever you needed, I tried my best to be there for you and try to help you to the best of, with the best of my ability.
Okay. Thank you. And that is a lot to encourage someone and not to run away, to be
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
that space. That friendship is more needed now than
Yeah.
any time before.
Yeah.
To be alone or to feel like you're alone. I think the ability, unfortunately, from the loss in your life, you could reach into those spaces, even though it may not have been a spouse, but the loss still exists. And
Hmm.
as you mentioned before, you can amplify, depending on that situation, how great that whole could be for that person to try to continue to exist and to leave. I think that's very admirable to find out what somebody wants and literally work to fulfill that. Not to say,
Hmm.
well, that's not on the list I can do, but if you
Hmm.
said that's what you need,
Hmm.
I'm here to do that for you.
Hmm. Hmm.
That is huge.
Hmm. Hmm.
That is huge.
Yes, 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 yeah. Yeah, the other thing that I remember, I don't know if you want to go there, but I'm going there.
Go ahead. Here go. I ain't got
So
no cup. We got tea coming. Go ahead.
the other thing I remember was the transition to going back to starting to date again.
Oh, yeah.
You should have seen your face when I said that.
The idea, and not like dating, but just thinking like the concept of thinking about it. Here
Yeah.
I am, like grown, thinking we're going to spend forever together.
Hmm.
And thinking when I got ready for that, what would that look like? How could I
Yeah.
trust myself
Yeah.
to someone? And That is complicated. That is complicated to think. I know when I was thinking about the idea of dating, my son Alexander was like, "Mom, you know who you are? You know how complicated that's going to be? You know how," I
Mm,
was like, "Yeah," because you still feel like you still have love to give
mhm.
and feeling like, when would that time be right? What would people say? What would that look like? There was a lot of conversations, and I remember getting different books and reading and as you say in the beginning, learning who is Tina now
Mhm.
compared to that 18-year-old girl with the tissue on the bottom of her shoe that met Mark in Pizza Hut versus who I am, the woman now. There is a
Yeah.
lot to think with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And negotiating that whole dating scene and then updating me on the stories, and we're just busting out laughing and everything because it's like, oh my God. I was like,
That online thing is not what they show us to do.
yes.
Like, okay, I said I was
Yeah.
5'9" and I'm looking at the top of your head, and you are
Mercy.
5'6". No, no, that is a lot. That is a lot. But you know what? Going back to something you said, if you don't know who you are, you don't know what you would accept or willingly
Yeah.
allow to come into your space. But when you start knowing who you are, you like, boy, bye.
Mhm. Yeah.
You
And
got no time for that.
you did a whole lot of swiping left. I'm telling you, it's like, oh my God. And
Yes.
I was like, woo, I don't think there's any hope. I really, yeah, it's a challenge.
So how was it, is thinking of transitional points when I moved from Pennsylvania to Virginia? How was that with you, or what were your thoughts when that was going on? Me packing up and finally deciding I was going.
I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. I had a gaping hole. I never told you that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really didn't know. Soon after you left, I dropped my retirement papers
I
and
remember that.
I left the depot. I just couldn't do it no more, Tina.
Hmm.
I Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I sat there one day, and I'm that girl that takes a piece of paper and wrote the pros and the cons to
Yes.
stay in. And I had more pros to retire than I had to stay.
Okay.
And plus, God was downloading in my spirit, why are you still here? You can go do your business full time and you're making just as much or maybe even more than you are sitting in this chair. And it
Right.
was true. When I left, my whole business just took off.
Okay.
And I think too, because our relationship was so close and I looked forward to coming to work every day. And I have nothing, I'm just sitting there and wait long, go take a walk by yourself, all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? Why am I sitting here? So when I left and started full time, God gave me my clients to fill kind of the void. And I
Okay.
started making, friends and having conversations with clients. And I noticed that my whole conversation shifted once I retired full time because
Hmm.
now, I've kind of done put all that military stuff down and
Okay.
learned so much just from our friendship and how we were so transparent and how we were so sharing that I started opening up to my clients to the point that I have shared your podcast with 3 people already that are widows and a
Okay.
widower that just lost his wife last week. I
Wow.
sent it to my friend this morning because they're going to go to the wife's to the funeral. And I said, here, this podcast, give this to him so he can hear this because he just lost his wife last week. And I said,
Mm.
look at how God just orchestrates and he just designed things. So now
Right.
I'm even a conduit, even on this end with the podcast and sharing it to others that are going through the same process that you went through.
Wow. You've been holding back on me. It is something to have a friendship that is so strong and great. And when that disconnect, not severed, but not to the intensity on a day-to-day basis as it was, because every day we
I
were
know.
walking around that depot with our Fitbit on, counting our steps, and
Yeah.
a little competition, being shady with each other and
Yeah.
other stuff like that. Yeah, and it's interesting because just about everybody in that group have left. Both Jennifers are no longer there. Yeah, it does make a difference when people separate.
Yeah, and you don't have that connection no more. I mean, I really didn't have a connection. I looked around and it was like, what do I do now? So, like I said, I made my list and came out with more prompts, and I'm so glad I left right before COVID too. So I didn't have to deal with all the crazy. So
Yes.
yeah, timing was perfect. Timing was perfect.
Wow, this has been a good conversation. Thank you. Any questions of me before we wrap up? Any final words of advice or things that come to your mind for other people? Maybe to a person that's a widow or widower, or their friend or family members?
I would say one thing I like that you done was that you found a support group immediately after Mark passed. And I'll never forget when you came to me one time and says, Liz, I can't be grieving 10 years like some of these people are grieving, because they're talking like this thing was fresh and it just happened. And come to find out this thing happened years ago. But because their spouse did everything, they paid the bills and everything, they didn't know what to do. They were totally lost. And you said, no, I can't do this long-term grieving thing. I have to push on with my life. And when you said that to me, I was like, wow. So just in our conversation, just listen to the podcast this morning that you sent me and everything. I found out there's a divorce care group that divorcees go to.
Okay.
And there's a group. So I looked it up today. And
wow.
So Friday,
you just dropping these nuggets.
So Friday, I will be going to one of the meetings for divorcees, because I need,
Yes.
I need it too, and so yeah.
And when I said that about the 10 years, I know everyone's grief. Somebody may be 10, 20 years. Somebody could be in a bad marriage and they're done in 6 months, no later, because they're ready to move on.
Mm-hmm.
But in my head, I felt like it was going to be a agonizing torture to continually stay in that space. Some people may become widower, and they may never want to get remarried. They may want to forever stay in that. I respect that. But for me, I could not leave his clothes in the spot they were in. I could not leave his contents in the drawer in the bathroom. I remember just all these different things that it made me keep feeling like he was going to walk through that door and our life was going to resume the way that it was. And I had to pull myself out of that fake sense that my life was going to remain with Mark. And those steps of saying I couldn't remain there were steps I was taking to like slap myself in the reality. He has died. And I need to figure out how Tina lives.
Yeah.
Because for me to continue doing that would have just ripped me apart. And I couldn't stay in that place of ambiguity. I needed to tell myself, Tina, he has left this world and you have to figure out how to live. And for me, that was what was necessary.
Yeah. 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 I understand. And that's where I'm at too in my space. I need to move on. I need to
continue living.
So yeah, starting Friday, I'll be joining this group and going to this program. I didn't even know it existed until really yesterday or this morning, whatever. And I was like, let me this, but yeah.
Those are some solid words, to not be alone and to find a group that works for you. Thank you. Thank you, Liz, for being part of this conversation. Thank you for having all those nuggets I didn't know about in the tea. Thank you for being such a good friend.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anytime. Anytime.
All right. You have a good day.
You too. I love you.
I love you too. Bye-bye. Wow. I spent a lot of time with Elizabeth, and yet she had things going on in my grief and in her life I didn't know, but I'm glad that she brought it to this conversation. I hope that this has been inspiring you to be able to reach out if you feel like you've been alone, to know that grief is difficult, and you're unpacking it on your own terms, and to know that you have a life that is worthy of living, and to be encouraged. I pray that you are receiving hope, healing, and encouragement to continue on the journey that life has for you. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.